Hello and welcome to the Divorced Dadvocate, where we help fathers navigate through divorce during and after and create an amazing life for themselves and their children. I am Jude Sandoval and I am your host. Thanks for being here today. Before we get rocking and rolling with our amazing guest today, I have a quick request and I need a little bit of help. I am planning on creating an online course that is recovering from divorce, crafted for divorced fathers. And I'm looking for about 15 to 20 people that would work, that would take a 10 to 15 minute survey on the phone or on Zoom or on Skype with me. So if this is something that you're willing to get on a call with me for 10 or 15 minutes, if you could just comment in below on in the comments, because I read all of them, or private message me, or call me directly at 720-255-1021, or email me at jude@thedivorceddadvocate.com. I would appreciate it. And thanks in advance. So on the show notes, my guest today is an author. She's a relationship coach and the founder of Path to Love Coaching, where she helps busy, fit professionals find clarity in who they are and what they need for a lasting relationship. Alison Verge, thank you for being here today.
Thank you so much. It's such a pleasure to be on this show.
And the mother of two teens, so I always have compassion and some kind of kinship with other parents of teens, because I have some too. So it's just that special bond that we have, right? Because we all know what we're going through. It's like you can see the other person in the grocery store and go, they have teens too, I think. I'm pretty sure. It's just that dazed look.
Yeah, it's actually the ones who are traveling to the liquor store afterwards.
Right, from the grocery store to the liquor store, or vice versa, yeah. Right? Yeah. Exactly. Hence the wine rack in your background. Perfect.
Yeah. Or even better, in the States, I'm from Canada. In the States, you could just do it all at the same time, even better.
That's true. We can't here in Colorado because the different states have different laws. But yeah, there are some states where you can just, which is brilliant, I think, because why would you want to make two steps when you could just do it all at once? But yeah, we have these weird archaic laws in Colorado. So.
Well, we can here too, but it's different wine. So I like to go to actually the bigger liquor store where there's more selection. So there's always laws.
That's right. Cool. So I would love to chat with you about your philosophy of unhackable. And but before we do that, can you share with the audience just a little bit about what got you into doing what you're doing now?
Sure, absolutely. Well, I actually was in a different career for about 25 years. I was in business operations and marketing, and a skiing accident actually left me in a wheelchair.
Wow.
And with this condition. And it's considered one of the most painful conditions in the world, nicknamed the suicide disease. It was pretty horrible times about 6 years ago now. Horrible time in my life. And at the same time, as I was trying to work my way through this and, doing all the research I could to figure out how can I, move through this, unfortunately, my marriage ended at the same time. So being a former fitness fanatic, having this business that I was an entrepreneur, I was running myself, mother of two kids, I was taking them, I was managing two soccer teams. This was devastating. It was like, how am I supposed to do this? The doctors were just throwing opiates at me saying, we understand the pain is intense, like you can't deal with this, here's the opiates. And I understand they have a place. So I'm not, I understand people who do need those, but with someone with this condition, there really isn't much of an end in sight if you start down that path, unfortunately. So I had a decision to make in my life. I stepped back and I said, okay, I can give in to this, or I can fight. And I chose to fight. And through that process, it was not easy. It was literally like in the pool, just tiny steps. It was a long, long process, a lot of research, a lot of trial, a lot of mindset work, I managed to get myself into a much better position. But at the same time, I stepped back and I took a look at my entire life. And I thought, I was mourning a lot of stuff, but was I mourning the right things? Was I really actually happy? And I realized that I did love my former career. I loved the people. I loved the environment. But, a lot of my past work was in craft beer and food service and like Dairy Farmers of Canada and Coke and all of those things. But I realized that I wasn't getting anything personally out of it. I wasn't really doing anything to help the world. And that's not necessary for everybody. But for me, I realized there was a void there. So I decided to really transform every aspect of my life, not only get my health back in order, but also my career. I decided to go down a completely different career path, one that I was always passionate about. I went to school for psychology. I have always read every single relationship book under the sun. It's my passion. So I decided to go back to school basically to be a relationship coach. At the same time, also renovate my house completely. So I literally transformed my entire existence while still fighting physically to get back into where I was before. And I did all of that. I'm walking, freely now. I'm a dating and relationship coach, but I also decided to focus on singles because I went through the dating process myself after I took some time to, and some healing. I went through it, and wow, after 20 years married, I realized what happened? What happened? I can't even tell you. I just was baffled at the process. When we started out, if it's fair to say we do, started out, you met someone at a party or an event or through a friend or somewhere, and you liked each other and you gave each other a chance and things worked out. But it was not this impersonal and, oh, I'm sorry, you have a freckle. It's just not going to work.
Right.
So and I just kept hearing the same things from other women and men, and there was just such frustrations, and it was hard. It was emotionally hard, and I was about to give up, and I took a step back. I was blaming, everything else but me. Like, this dating sucks, the sites suck, guys suck, like everything, but I thought it can't be me. Like, I'm smiling, everything's perfect. But then I realized, hey, I'm the common denominator here.
Sure.
I am the common denominator here. So maybe there's something that I am doing wrong. So I did a lot of inner work. I worked with a coach, and I figured out that I did not have the right mindset for this. I really didn't. I hadn't properly, even though I thought I hadn't properly healed from the past, I was coming in with the wrong mindset. And it certainly wasn't an attraction-based mindset. It was more of I was going in already thinking the worst. And things are just not going to work out for you when you're thinking that way.
Right.
Once I shifted my mindset and the way I approach things, and like every date is an opportunity. Hey, some people would love this. My married friends were like, oh, you're so lucky. So not to downplay that, they're happy in their marriages, but hey, it's kind of fun, right? It's fun having these new experiences all the time.
Sure.
Once I started shifting my approach, I swear to you, within a week, things changed. And then I met my current boyfriend of 3.5 years. So everything changed literally in a week. So and I decided I have to help people. I have to help people who are single, do the same thing, but also bridge the communication gap between men and women, because, a lot of people just focus on men or focus on women. And I do think that's extremely important. But in my case, I saw such a disconnect between what women and men want, and they don't understand each other. And I mean, that to some degree will never change. But in dating, there's things that men are doing that they think is great because it's what they would like. And women are like, why do they do that? And there's things that women are doing that men are like, oh, I can't stand that. But we think men like it because we like it. Right. So if I can help bridge that gap, there'd be a lot more success in dating. So to make that's a bit of a long answer, but that is
No,
why I'm here where I am today. And I'm
yeah,
very passionate about it.
that's very, the mindset is huge. And part of, I think during divorce, that is a prime opportunity. And that I find with a lot of the men that I work with is they're looking and searching to find what it was that happened and why. And so it's a really, really good opportunity at that time to understand, like you said, well, maybe it isn't everybody else. Maybe there's some accountability here. Maybe there's something, no matter, because it takes two for something to be successful or to not be successful. So there's accountability on both sides, but really stopping to see where it was that you need to figure out in order to go forward and do it better. Just like anything, right? Just like if you're doing something wrong, if you're exercising and you're not doing an exercise the right way, you're not getting the result that you wanted. Correct. So
Yeah.
you make a tweak, and that's why you have a coach, or that's why a coach is on a team. You're not getting the result, you're not winning games, you're making changes to whatever it may be in order to get that final result, which is the thing. I don't know about you, but the thing that is most rewarding for me is seeing them get to that result, but also coaching them to that result too. It's important to look at the past and talk about those things, but getting to that result is really rewarding.
Oh yes, getting to that end goal is just so incredible. So I fully agree with you.
Absolutely. So tell us about the unhackable system, your unhackable philosophy, because I would love to get unhackable or become unhackable, particularly dating.
Yeah, well, I would love to help you. And
But we can talk about it in any context of becoming unhackable, because it would probably be good in any part of my life.
yeah, well, actually, this, it can help you in every aspect of your life. And when I deal with people, I do deal with all aspects of their life. And, in dating, people become very discouraged. So I use the word unhackable, that you need to become more resilient in dating, because it is difficult, really.
Yeah,
Frankly,
I'll, s- I just I wanted to comment on what you said in the beginning is, so I appreciate the fact that you took accountability for it, but it is a little bit challenging out there, Allison. So
yeah.
it may not
Oh,
have all been you, or you're not only the only, you are the common denominator, but not the only factor, let's say.
no, and that's certainly true. Like I don't want to say I'm the only factor, but I realize that they are not the only factor. The process is not the only factor. I also can choose my own destiny in the future too.
Yeah.
I can take some control of the situation as well. And yes, you're gonna run into some crazy situations out there. Some people who are rude, but it's how you then process that, right? You have the choice in everything you do, how you process
Yes.
things. So you can let that defeat you completely, or you can understand that this is part of the process, right?
Right.
There's people that are you're going to reject people, and people are going to reject you. They don't even know you.
Yes.
So you just can't take everything personally. If you take absolutely everything personally in dating, you're not going to survive. You just
Right.
will not survive, because it doesn't matter how good looking you are, how smart you are, how much money you have, you are going to get rejected in dating. Like, it's going to happen to you. And so
Yes.
you have to have that resilience and understand, like, I think you probably heard the stat, like 20 to 25% of people will not like you no matter what you do. You could do anything. You could be the perfect person and they will not like you.
Is it that
So,
low? Because
it,
I think
well,
mine's higher. But anyway, okay.
there's the chemistry, right? But even despite that, there's just some people that just will not like you. The second they even like see you, forget looks. It's just your personality. They just won't like you, and you haven't even opened your mouth.
Yeah.
So just you cannot please everybody. So
Well,
this
that's a
is part of
great
the
point. That's a great point. And excuse me, because I know you said you have daughters. I have daughters also who are in the starting to date age as well. And I've made that exact point to them, because that was a hard thing for me. And I never had anybody telling me that. And so I took it very personally, like what's wrong, but personally in the sense of, oh, what's wrong with me? There must be something wrong with me, which I
yeah.
mean, stems from like a narcissistic mom and some other crazy stuff in my childhood. But I've tried to emphasize to my daughters that just like you don't like or aren't attracted to every everybody else, there's going to be the same with you. And it just has nothing to do with you. It's
Yeah.
just like kind of like some people like hamburgers and some people like hot dogs more. It's just different. So
Yes.
it's
Well,
okay.
and especially as women, I don't know if men do this quite as much as women, but we tend to put story in our head before things have even happened. So before we go on a date with
Sure.
somebody, put this story in our head that this is going to be the most incredible relationship, and this is, have a spark with that guy, and all of a sudden we're flashing forward to, the marriage overseas on the beach, and like but we don't even know that person. So
Right.
we have this huge, so when we feel rejected, it's like the whole world is ending. But if you take a step back and go, I don't even know that person and they don't even know me. So you have to take a look at it from a different viewpoint, that there isn't much of a loss there.
Yeah.
Move on. That person, you don't know what their status is. They may have given up on dating. They may have been talking to somebody else already. You don't know what their status is. You just can't take everything personally. It's hard. Like, I understand to some degree. It's easier said than done. It still hurts, stings a little bit, but you just have to then step back and try to get through it and keep moving on and try to change your perspective on it.
Right.
So
And would you say the more you meet people and the more you talk to people and the more you put yourself out there, the easier it becomes for you to be comfortable with that and knowing and understanding that, okay, it's just, particularly if you have more good experiences on the dating scene or just what in general with people that you just go your own ways, just know that for instance, I got comfortable saying, hey, it was really great meeting you, but I don't think that we're a match and wish you the best of luck. Right.
yeah,
So and that was hard in the beginning, whereas people just want to ghost. They don't want to have those conversations. And, once you start getting to a comfort level, it just makes it easier, but that takes
yeah,
time.
it does. And I think a lot of people really fear being honest, right? They're going to hurt that person. So they just say nothing. And in fact, that is far more harmful, right?
The
And
worst.
I actually found the process when I was dating to be more enjoyable by being honest. And I was shocked. I was like, oh my gosh, how am I going to tell? I don't like hurting people. And not that anybody does, but I really, really dread it. So I don't know what to say. I don't know, how am I going to tell? I was so stressed. That stressed me out more than any rejection, is
Mm,
what am I going to say? But it's not fair to go on another date either. So, and I don't believe in just ghosting people. So I just mulled over, what am I going to say? And then finally, I would say, I'm sorry. I don't think we're a match, but I wish you the best. I think you're a great person. And I was shocked at how many men were like, thank you so much. I can't tell you how much I appreciate the fact that you were just honest with me and you didn't just ghost me like I was texting you for weeks and you weren't responding to me.
yeah.
I really appreciate that you were immediately honest with me. And in fact, some of them are still my friends. Like we became friends. They said, could we just be friends? And I was like, oh, you want to still be friends? I thought, if I had said that, they'd be like, oh, please, just friends. But and we are legitimately friends. And then they get my opinion. Hey, what do you think about this situation? Going out with this woman. So they got, we became friends and people who we could bounce ideas off of. So I think just being yourself, being honest, it makes the process a lot more fun, and you don't take things quite as personally. And yes, things do come with experience. If you have the wrong mindset with, over time, the more you do, you're going to get into a bad place. But with the proper mindset and experience, it's going to get easier.
Right. Do you find that it's a little more challenging for women to have that conversation about, oh, I don't, we're not a match, than it is for guys to do that? And if so, would it be advisable or helpful for men to just breach that topic? So say at the end, like, I had a really great time, I'd love to do this again, but what are your thoughts? How do you feel about that? And then just like open the space and the opportunity for her to say, oh, I really don't think we are. Because then at least there's the
Yes.
opportunity, right? You're just
Yes.
prompting the opportunity to say yes or no. Because God knows, like, I don't want, 3 kids, work, I don't want to waste time with having
Yeah.
to pursue something where somebody just really simply doesn't have the abilities yet or maturity to be able to say, sorry, we're not a match, which is just a few simple words that would save a lot of time and heartache and pain.
Yes. Yes, I fully agree with that. I think if you feel comfortable to directly ask that question after the date, I think that's great because you know exactly where you stand. If you don't feel comfortable asking it right off the bat, you know, perhaps a text right after, hey, I had a great time. Would you be interested in going out again? But I am trying to encourage more women to be a little more proactive, to take a little bit of pressure off the man.
Sure.
It's There is a misconception that it's not attractive for women not to be proactive, right?
Mm,
That women are going to find us appealing if we're proactive. And you know, obviously, we don't want to be too aggressive, no. But I, in fact, have interviewed a lot of men who have said that if the women were, for instance, to ask them out in a certain way or just approach them, not you know, approach them, they would find that really sexy
yeah.
because some of them are very shy and they're always tired of having to make the first move, and knowing that a woman is interested would be amazing. And in the same regard, after a date, I'm trying to encourage women to say, to text right after the date or right away, give the man an indication that you are interested,
Yep.
very clear indication that you're interested, because sometimes we think that we've sent you, you know, some kind of clue and you guys do not get it. And it, to us,
No,
we're like, "How did they
just
miss that?"
make it very clear and simple. That's the easiest thing with men. Direct
Yes,
and forthright
yes,
and clear, right?
direct. Like, I, you know, I had a really great time on the date. You know, it'd be great to see you again. And just leave it at that. You're not saying, what do you want to go out this Saturday? Do you want to, you know, you don't have to say that,
Right.
but I think so. I encourage both parties, you know, to just be open about what's happening. You don't have to play games. You know, there is a little bit of that process. I mean, not to be too open, and I think you're amazing, and I can see you being my future, you know,
Yeah.
husband, future wife. You know, whoa, take it slow, right? But
Yeah.
um, you know, I think that it doesn't all have to happen, you know, be on the man's shoulders to do all of that work. I think both parties can be involved in that process.
Sure. Let's talk about that just a little bit briefly because that whole idea of the courtly love thing and that you're just there and you're experiencing then the men are pursuing, and it's a complete fallacy and it doesn't work, and it's been something that has been sold over the centuries now really for that has not that is now even is based upon kind of the dynamic with with women in the workplace, women being more assertive, is just very confusing for men and for women. So if you're, would you, let's talk about that just a little bit because I get the question all the time and I hear women say, well, I'm not supposed to pursue. And you said it exactly how I feel is right, which is being showing interest in describing or opening the space for men to know that you're interested is not necessarily being too aggressive or pursuing, but it is prompting, right? It's giving the opportunity for a man to say, oh, she is interested. And then if the man's doing the thing, doing what he's supposed to be doing, he's going to pursue, he's going to talk to you, he's going to ask you out, he's going to plan a date, etc.
Yes, yes. So, for instance, I mean, a lot is online now, but let's just say that let's just say you're in a bar. It's not the number one place I would advise meeting people, but let's just take that scenario, okay?
Okay.
Because most of the time, women wait for the man to approach them, and we think that the man is probably clear that we might like them. Like, we just go like that, and it's like, oh, he must know I like them. He's gonna come up, but he doesn't know that that's a clear signal. So you might want to go over and, you know, men naturally want to help. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
that goes back,
Yes.
if you read John Gray, right? Men want to help, and when
Yes.
they feel needed, you're making them feel amazing, and it's one way to start the attraction process. But you don't have to go right up and spark a conversation immediately. You can just, you know, if they're standing at the bar and you're finding them cute, you can go beside and go, oh, hey, can you hold this for me for 1 second? Sorry, I got to get something, from my purse. Just 1 second, right? And oh, sure, right? He holds it, and you say, oh, so how's your night, by the way? And then that person will, answer the question. It starts a bit of a conversation. You don't have to keep it going for long. You could say, have a great night, and you walk away. Like you're not,
Right.
dominating the conversation, but you gave the man an opening
Right.
speak to you now, or even across the room, like, smile, but keep the gaze for a second, like not just a quick glance, smile, and then do it another time. So he's like, okay, that's not just a chance. She
Right.
is actually giving me an opening to come and say hi.
Right.
So it doesn't, like I said, have to be so upfront that, hey, right up, how are you, blah, 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 and going right up to the man. But there's those little subtle gestures that you're still giving him the opening, because some women are still very uncomfortable with this. If you want to go up, but don't then stand there forever. Like if you're not getting the signal that he kind of wants you in that environment. But so there are subtle ways to do this. I mean, in the same regard, the man should pick up on clues that perhaps, body language is everything, right?
Right.
So
Yep.
pick up on clues that a woman may not be interested in you. If you're, if he's kind of turning his, and same with women, like you're turning away, you're looking
Right.
at the door, you're, the person's probably not feeling that same connection. But
Right.
so there are definitely ways to show people that you're interested. And online is super easy. There's nothing wrong with a woman texting, a man sending a message on an online dating app to just say hello, and know, pick out something in their profile that they found attractive, which I think is, something interesting, not the way they look, but something in their profile. And that is really important for women, by the way. For men, when you reach out to women, please don't just say, hey, please don't do that. Okay? Please,
Yeah.
please, please don't do that. I know men think, I've heard this before. I've had people say, well, it's a numbers game. Like,
Yeah.
I'm competing against so many people. So if I do this with this many women, I'm gonna, eventually I'll get one who will respond. But that's going, quantity over quality. So instead of doing that, read the profiles, pick out something super interesting and comment in that. And if I bet you'll get a response from that woman. I always responded to those, because I have to. If you took that time to write something like that, then I'm gonna respond back to him in kind. And I was super impressed.
Yeah. So yeah, that's the whole online dating thing is probably a whole nother show that we could go into
Yes,
details about,
yes.
because it's and I did a show a few weeks back about this a little bit, and we talked about it. But just on that note, they've done they've done studies. It takes 114 messages to a woman online in order to get one response. So,
Wow,
so it is a numbers game, unfortunately, which is what makes the whole system kind of false. I call it online window shopping. And so you're not actually really investing an immense amount of time, because if you take the time to write 114 messages that are really conscientious and you read all of those profiles, you can only imagine how much time that would take. So it really,
okay, but I'm gonna disagree with you, because if you have my process,
okay.
my process is, and the reason it works is because it's very much like business, and this in coaching. When you niche down,
Mhm.
you only want to reach out to a very select few, and you only want a select few to reach out to you, and you are only attracting a select few. So you actually want your profile, believe it or not, to repel certain people. You
Yep.
want it. Too many people are making their profiles, they're writing them to attract everybody, because they do have that numbers game
Mhm.
in mind. And that's not what you want. You want to repel people, because the work I do is becoming very clear on who you are, and exactly what you need in a partner to be happy. I mean, we look at what's realistic, of course. It's not just to be a model and be this and be that. It's what do you need in order to be happy and fulfilled in your life? And then your profile reflects that. and there's keys to doing it as well. But so when you are reaching out to certain people, and when people are reaching out to you, it's a smaller number of people. Just like in business, when you're niching down, you're targeting a smaller group of people. So you're not writing 150 emails. You're finding that woman who actually checks the boxes on those requirements that you need. So, and I can tell you from talking to hundreds of women that writing something like that means something. So if you want a quality person that matches what you really need, taking a little bit of time, it doesn't have to be an essay. I'm just talking even a sentence, just to show her that you read her profile. So
Yeah.
that's my challenge to you. I know there may be stats, you're going to
Yeah.
find stats, everything, but
yeah, the challenge is that you don't know if that person's actually online. You don't know if the profile is actually real. You don't know the nature of the person, their relationship status. There's so many things. So that's why that number goes 114 or whatever that real number is. And so if all things were true in the sense that you're talking to somebody and you know that somebody's going to read that message, I would 100% agree with you. That makes sense. Just like in real life, right? It would be the same as in real life. You wouldn't just walk up to somebody and go, hey, or the old Joey line in Friends, how you doing, right? Okay, so you wouldn't do that 114 times in real life. How you doing? You
yes,
do something more, have more of a conversation. But you, in real life, and I highly suggest that any of the men that are out there, date, like, approach in real life. Do it in real life. Don't count on the dating apps, and don't solely date off the dating apps, because you're going to get incredibly frustrated and the experiences are not necessarily, you said it in the beginning, what the heck has happened and how this world has changed with the dating. And I'm a firm believer of that old school, what you described about creating the opening. I think your words about creating the opening is so huge, right? Because what we don't have in real, I call it real life, I guess online dating's real life too, but like live in person, is knowing that there's that opening. Because online, theoretically, this person is somebody available, right? Which it's not always the case, but
yeah.
but in person, if that opening is presented to you, then that takes away that barrier of wondering, oh, is she married? Is she dating somebody? Is she interested? Does she just get out of a relationship? Do I look like her ex and she wants to cut my head off? Or, there's that opening. So if she's smiling or says, oh, hi, or whatever, then you're like, oh, okay, yes. And then you can proceed in your
Yeah.
pursuit. Would you agree with that?
Yes.
Yeah.
100%. And I always tell my clients to take a well-rounded approach to dating. And that's why it's also important that we look at their interests. And when we also look at, when we discover who that person is for them, it's almost like a completely clear picture of that person, other than their looks, because we're not really diving into, what does that person look like? Sure, you can add that on, but it's really who they are, and it's a very complete picture. So then you start to list, like, okay, what are my interests, but what are their interests? And then, okay, what can I get involved in? Not only what I like, but what does she like? So it may not be something that you normally would do. Like, maybe, I don't know, you wouldn't normally take a yoga class, but hey, you might be the only guy in that yoga class. The numbers are great.
Yes.
Think about other things, get out of your comfort zone and take some risks. And in person is fantastic, because sometimes what we look for online is really idealized, right?
Mm-hmm.
And when we meet them in person, we're willing to be a little bit more realistic,
Yeah.
right? And because we're talking to the person, and like you said, and I do get that online, there's a lot of fake people, profiles aren't necessarily real, but there are some real people too. But obviously, when you're meeting someone in person, it's different, because you're talking to them immediately, and you can kind of discover, okay, I start to see a connection here, and this person is actually a real person standing in front of me.
Yes.
But I mean, that's why online, I also encourage people, if you see a connection, get online, like to a video call pretty soon, so that A, the person's real, and you can tell if there's some chemistry in the way you're talking and stuff like that.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. So I don't know if we've hit the unhackable parts at
So
all.
we touched upon a few of them, but if I go through these steps, and some of them I can sort of skim over because we've touched upon them.
Okay.
The first one is really looking at whether or not you're truly ready to get into dating, right? And the process involves stepping back, and you sort of touched upon this earlier, is take a look at all of your relationships, right? And what, especially your last one, you're dealing with divorced dads here,
Mhm.
is what baggage am I possibly carrying,
Yeah.
right? That could possibly hold me back into a future relationship. We're always going to have issues, right? I'm not saying you have to solve everything to a T, but is there something that could, hold you back from having a great future relationship? And I think we really have to be honest with ourselves, because it's easy to blame the partner in our previous relationship, but it does take two to tango. Like, I had to really think too, like, hey, you know what, I contributed to this as well. And what did I do wrong? And what do I need to change to make sure my future relationship, doesn't fall apart the same way?
Absolutely.
So yeah, so then it's okay. So based on the information now, what do I need to do to, change that? And also, am I living a well-rounded life? So especially right now during COVID, I think a lot of people have kind of gotten into, I'm working and then I, might feed my children, but then I turn on the TV.
Hmm.
Well, is that it? Like, is that all you're doing? When you go out on a date, what do you have to talk about? Like, are you talking, do you just have work and maybe, probably aren't talking a lot about your kids
Hmm.
and then maybe the latest news, but what can you do to be a little more well-rounded in your life? Is there a course you could take? Is there a skill you want to learn? Maybe you need to meet new friends, like, or some more friends, or so what can you do to ensure that you do have a well-rounded life? Because also, being a successful single person is highly attractive. It's really important for you. There's a lot of people who then expect that relationship to complete their lives, which is not a good way to get into a relationship. You want that relationship to complement your life. You
Yep.
don't want to stop what you're doing the second you get into that relationship. You want to carry on with what you're doing and then come together as a team, right?
Right. And
So
you kind of want to be the person that you want to attract, right? So if something is being active and fit is something that is important that you want to find in somebody, well, guess what? You got to be active and fit yourself. If spirituality is very important to you and in your life, then or with somebody else, then that's how you need to be in your life as well, because then the like is going to attract the like.
yes, exactly. Well, and that's actually, that's a great thing that you touched upon. It's part of the process as well. That's really, really important. So, and it's part of also being realistic. And yes, if you want to attract that person, you absolutely have to ensure that you have that yourself. Not that that you have to be identical people, but you can't, if your life is a mess, and you can't expect that other person to be attracted to you. There's certain
Yeah.
aspects. You have to get your life in order. But the rest is, the next stage is really, really knowing what you want, like being clear. Like, we think we know what we want, but do we really? I think if you took a step back and ask yourself, like, do you really know what you want in your future? Do you really know what you want in a relationship? Because most of the time we just have this general idea that I want the person to be smart, to be funny, to be good looking. Like, those are just general things. You don't really know the key things that are really going to make you happy. And what do you really want in general in your future, your whole future? Like, most of
Right.
us just go out our daily tasks. I'm working, I'm taking care of my kids. I just want to be healthy. I want to make enough money to, do this, go on vacation. But what do you really want down the road in the future? Because that's important. But so when there's some stages to this, like, first is, like I said, looking at your previous relationships and making a list of what went wrong, the key things, and making a list of what went right, because there are both, right? And
Yes.
that there's a lot of information there. And you can even do the same with your friendships and stuff,
Yep.
because this tells you what works for you and what doesn't.
Right, right.
And then,
Can I share an example of that? So, and then I'll share a personal
sure,
example just
absolutely.
for men out there. So, for me, family and having family gatherings and doing fun social things with friends, like having parties, is a really important thing because I just love to do that. Have everybody over, do something. So, for me, in like my vision of somebody that would also like to do that as well, have family over, have friends over, have big parties, do it on a regular basis. It's just a whole mess of fun for me. And so
Yep.
that is something that I look for in somebody else that wants to do and participate in that, or already does it, or if like, or is at least willing to like try to, do that.
Yes, yes. And so that is really key information, that an introvert may not be the right person for you. And there is
Exactly.
nothing wrong with an introvert. An introvert is going to be great for another person.
Right.
But 4 years ago, you might not have paid attention to that. You
Right.
would have been so involved in the attraction process and chemistry that you're like, I can get over that.
Let's not even get into me
Social
4 years ago
I
and
know.
dating, because
Hey,
what a train
we all
wreck. Yeah. So,
all did it. Okay. We all went there, but we all thought we could change someone, and that the person, like, we're a certain way. We can't understand how sometimes how other people can be a certain way. Right. So we think, oh, of course they'll want to have people over. It'll be fine. Like they'll get over that. They'll change, it'll be fine. But if that's the way that person is, that's the way they are. You can't change that person. It doesn't mean you can't compromise sometimes, but if that person is truly an introvert and you really love to have these gatherings, you're going to have issues. So, but that's just one thing. So now what else is important to you? So this is really key information that you have to discover about yourself. And it's, there's lots of things that, like, I look at with my clients that brings out that information. And like the other thing is listing red flags, like that, taking a look at the opposite of that, that might be a red flag for you, right? So it's, what have you fallen for in the past that you're not going to anymore, that has not ever worked for you or didn't work for you in your entire relationship, that you're not going to. So you list that down. And then you list, okay, what are my own qualities, right? You make a list. These are my qualities. This is what I have to offer a relationship. And I mean, that's also important, right? And it's also important for your confidence level. I find sometimes people's confidence level after a divorce, and even in general, has been diminished. So it's really good
Mhm.
to remind yourself, I'm a great person. I'm actually a great catch. So that's, put that, over on your fridge somewhere. And then figure out, this is what we talked about, the most important thing based on all of that. Then what do you need in this other person in order to be happy? And you break that list into deal breakers.
Mhm.
So these are things that when you're out there dating, if you spot that, I mean, giving someone a chance, but if you spot that, okay, no, and I've got to walk away, it's not going to work.
Yeah.
But then you have the wants. So those are the icing on the cake. I would love somebody to be interested in skiing, but it's not a necessity. Like, I can go skiing. We could go to the same place even, and maybe she wants to do something else and go to the spa, and I'll go skiing. Like, I don't care, but maybe it is a necessity for you. But so you then break your list into, what is a deal breaker for me? What do I know that would make me like really unhappy if she didn't have that? So
Right.
that's really important. And read this list often. Remind yourself about what's important, and don't let it go. We make excuses because we're so attracted to that person, right? We
Yes,
make, well,
absolutely.
that she has everything else, I can live with that one. Well, no, if you have decided up front that all of those are non-negotiables, and I really test my clients on these, I really test them. If that's your non-negotiables, they're all non-negotiables. If
Yeah.
it's not all non-negotiables, it should be on the want list.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
that,
And just to be clear, you're not being incredibly picky. You're
no,
just finding stuff that is incongruent with maybe your values or what you believe is what your
yeah,
vision for your life is. And if that doesn't fit, be seriously, be firm about not
yes,
compromising about that. And so, and I want to say that because you hear, oh, never compromise, blah, blah, blah. And that's become this like jargon, but in I think it's just become ridiculous because like nobody's compromising anything now. And it's become so
Yeah.
stringent that I got to have, the person's exactly this height and they look like this and
Yeah.
da, da, da. You're not talking about that. And we're not talking
Sure.
about that. Yeah. It's
No.
like you have some specific things that you just cannot have or don't want in your life or whatever it is, a value or not a value. But just be true to that. Also, do not waver from that, because trust me, the universe is going to make you pay attention to it, and
Exactly.
it's going to
Exactly.
come up, and it's going to come up big, and it's going to be a big problem.
It is. Yes. We're absolutely not talking about, like, that's why I said we're not talking about looks here. I mean, if you want to add something there, I would say add that to your want list, but we're actually talking about what you need almost to survive. Like, this is what makes you tick. Like, this is what you need, like, in order to be fulfilled and happy. Like, this isn't you being picky and, well, I want this and I want that and I have to have the whole world. This is actually, once you do the work, that's why you have to do the work first on figuring out who you are. And yes, do a lot of work on figuring out what your values and the vision for your future is, and all your past information. And so we're taking real factual evidence here about what you need in order to be fulfilled in your life. This isn't this like winning the lottery kind of thing. This is actually what you need.
Yeah.
So it's not being picky, and it's not, yes, you are not compromising. You really actually need this. You really need this.
Well, let me add also, work with a coach or a therapist or somebody to do that, because we all have blind spots. And if you're working with Alison and she's talking with you and talking you through it and observing and maybe moving you in a direction to help you see what those blind spots are, or maybe this is a good time to talk about the bank code also,
Yeah.
and the different
Yeah.
the tests that you have that you give clients to kind of see and understand what they value and kind of how they operate. That it can go a long way. And this was something that I regret that I didn't do early on, during and out, right immediately after my divorce, was get into therapy or coaching to really help me along, because what I feel like is it's just, I've figured out a lot of stuff. It's just taken me so much longer and it's been so much harder. But I mean, that's been pretty much my MO, like do it the hardest way possible to learn the maximum that you can. But if you don't want to do that and you want to get through the pain quicker, work with somebody.
Yes, no, I fully believe that. And we could certainly get into the bank code. Did you want to tell people, I was just going to put the link in the chat here. Do you want to, if they want to do it as we go along? It only takes 90 seconds.
I will. Yeah, they can jump on it. People who are listening, what is it? It's crackmycode.com/path, the number 2 love. And if you want to jump on it, it's quick, like 15 seconds. And then you get an email about what your code is, and we can talk about it. Yeah, we can talk about it briefly. I'll also put it in the show notes below, and link it to your website where they can go, and then they can click on it, and then they can go through it, so that then they can get the email, and then they can call you and go through all through the different things. But we talked just for a few minutes before the show about this, and I was sharing with you what my code was, and you were just describing. So you must be like this, and that, and I was thinking, yeah, she must know me, or she was talking to my mom. But yeah, it's pretty accurate. So just tell us a little bit about what it is, and then how you use it with clients.
Yes, so it's called Bank. But, some people get nervous. I even my friends, I sent it to them and they were really scared. They're like, are you wanting my bank information? I'm like, no, it's not your bank information. It's a personality coding system. It was used for years by salespeople to understand people and how to approach them. But then over time, they realized this is more of a relationship tool. This is actually helping us relate to people. And so salespeople still use it because it tells you so much about the person that you're going to, be dealing with. And corporations are using it so they know how to deal with their employees. But this is key information for your relationships. Like BANK stands for blueprint, action, nurturing, and knowledge. And so I'll tell you, blueprints are people who structure, and a process is everything. And they like to keep moving things forward, but there is a plan and a process for everything. So they like structure. An action person they're the driving entrepreneurs of the world, and they love excitement, constant excitement in life. So you need to keep them entertained, like to keep them happy in your life. You need to keep them entertained. If they get bored, there's trouble. You need to keep things spicy with an action person. Nurturers, which both you and I are, who are often therapists, coaches, they're all about love and affection. So, and helping the world, really. That's, we innately want to help people, and we need to be told that people love us and we need affection, and we're more about the sentiment in things than people necessarily doing things for us, or we like the fact that people are thinking about us. We don't like conflict. Conflict stresses us out typically. That's a nurturer. And like when I read my report, I was like, I told you, it was it was just describing me perfectly. You get a code of 4 numbers, and we'll talk about that in a second, but the knowledge people are all the numbers people. They like data, facts, figures, technology. So if you're in a discussion, or say you're in a relationship with a knowledge person, you better have your facts. Like if you're having a disagreement, you better know your facts. This happened. You did this on such a date and time, and here's exactly what happened. There's no wishy-washiness there. Like, sometimes I'll come from the approach of, I felt like this, and it really, well, when did it happen? When exactly did it happen, right? For a knowledge wants to know facts and figures. So those are the 4 codes. And then so what are the 4, when in terms of your personality, when you do the code, what's your number 1, what's your number 2, 3, and 4? The one that I'm sending people to is, you're doing a very quick assessment. I do have a more detailed assessment I can do with my clients as well. Sometimes they're spot on. Sometimes they've seen themselves a little bit differently, but most of the time they're spot on how they first see themselves. But there's also my detailed assessment also gives a percentage. Like you could see the actual breakdown of each one. Okay. Maybe more nurturing or more action. So for you, you said you were an NKBA.
Okay, correct.
Right.
Yes.
So you are a nurturer. So you are very loving and affectionate, and you in your relationship would need somebody who's loving and affectionate in return to you. You would need, that person shouldn't be forgetting about, holidays and things, and they should be showing you how important you are to them. That means a lot to you. But as a K, you also like your facts and figures. So data is going to be really important to you in your life, and having and in a sales thing, it's like someone wanted to sell to you, you better have your data down pat. Like you better know your figures. You better have that. So, or you're not going to get the sale with you. It's like, forget it. And then the B, the blueprints, like I said, they need structure. Now that's your 3rd position, but that was mine too. We still like some structure in our lives. We still like to have a plan and a process, but it's not right at the beginning. We still like some spontaneity, in our lives. So it's not what rules us as number 1.
Right.
And the action, like your action is last, which I actually find, based on what you said, a little bit surprising, so I want to do the detailed assessment with you, because you said you love to be around people and parties and stuff like that. And usually that's and you're an entrepreneur as well. And that's usually action-based people. So to
Hmm.
be in your last position, it doesn't have to be your first, but I'm surprised it's your very last position. So I would be curious. I'd like to do the detailed assessment with you to see if maybe it's like one up rather than last. Because often the people who would have A last might be the introverts who would kind of prefer to just be like a quiet night in. So
Yeah.
it's
Well,
so
I would
that's
tend to think that the K, B, and A are probably all very close in their percentages, because the B could be definitely my second, and is definitely nurturing is definitely my number one. There's no question about that. I'm sure of that. But any one of those last three, I think, could be kind of very close in what their percentages was, and I'd also maybe even put that B before the K, or maybe the A. So and it probably depends on the week too.
yes, yes,
Sometimes I don't want a lot of structure, and sometimes I'm
yes,
very action oriented, and
yes,
sometimes I'm not. And so yeah, it depends. So
yes,
yeah, you can
yes.
imagine what it would be like to date me. Crazy.
Well, it's no, I, but you can have like almost an equal breakdown of some of your different letters. And, I know my boyfriend, he's almost equal in three components. So and I can
Mm,
see it. Like he's quite, a BK. You could see him it having the traits of a B, a lot of them, and then a lot of the traits of the K. He's like 50-50 of each. But it's helped so much in our relationship because there's things that I just didn't understand before. Like, why does he need to have a process for laundry? And why does he need to have a process for this? And
uh-huh.
now it
So
makes sense.
can an opposite, can like an ABKN, like the opposite of me, like can you still be compatible,
Yes.
or
Yes. In fact, it might be a little bit boring if you had everybody who is the same code. Like we are
right?
attracted to also to the same code. Like in friendships, you'll find sometimes like it's funny, a lot of my friends per se have the same type of code as I do. But my family and my relationships, I think they all had opposite codes. Because I think when you're looking for
Mm,
romantic partner, when they say opposites attract, it's often the case because you want someone to fill that other part of you, even though, yes, again, I'm going to say nobody's completing you, but you'd be kind of a boring person if you were all one way. So, it's kind of nice for me to have that process, having someone influence me and be a little more organized and process driven and have a plan for things, right? Like
mm-hmm.
that's good to have the balance in your life of the two, and then me to bring out the more nurturing side of him, which I think I have. Like, so it's great to have those two interact, but the important thing and the reason why I love this is to understand it and how to meet in the middle. Because if you don't understand it, it conflicts all the time, right?
Right.
Because we just don't understand, because we're a certain way, how that other person could be like that. But then when you understand that that's innately them, like this is them at the core, they're not trying to be difficult, they're not trying to, this is who they are, and there's nothing wrong with that. They're different than us, but there's nothing wrong with being different than us. Let's respect that. Let's respect our differences and then come together in the middle. But we have to come together in the middle, and I have to try to help, respect you and work with your needs and mine in return.
Right. So it's being self-aware, being aware of the other person, and then learning how to communicate what it is you need, or they communicating what it is they need.
Yes, exactly, exactly. And with your children too, because you're dealing with dads.
Mm.
I do this with my teens, and I can't tell you how valuable it's been to me. It has made me see things from a completely different angle.
Oh my
I
God, I am going to be going home
have to
because
do it.
God knows I need some tools with my teens.
You have to do it because one of mine's a B and one's a K, and it makes so much sense to me now when we have conversations. Like my K daughter is always like, "Why do you have to come from things from such a feeling point of view?" And always like it kind of frustrates her. And I'm like, now I get it. If I were more factual, she'd be a lot happier, right? So it just has made so much sense to me going through this. I really understand people now by doing this. So it's a valuable tool. I mean, not to rely on it, obviously alone, but it
Right.
is a valuable tool for trying to respect people.
Right, right. So, are there any other steps to becoming unhackable? What do we have
Yes,
left?
we can go through them fairly quickly here, but having a positive attitude, that is really key, because a lot of people are negative out there, and it sounds obvious, but you see people even in their profiles, there's negative comments, or I'm not looking for this, I'm not looking for that, I'm not, and no, turn it around to positive, right? And
One of my non-negotiables would be somebody who watches the news incessantly or is on social media all the time, because all that does is breed negativity. So yeah.
yes, exactly. And don't go on a date and start talking about your ex and how it all went wrong. And,
Right.
just leave that alone. I mean, it may come out later on, but just leave that off the first couple dates. Don't bring that up. So try to keep things positive, and acquire the information and support you need is the next one. Like, competence is really key. Like, having the knowledge, like, knowledge, as they say, is power, and there is stuff to know out there. Your old patterns are not going to work, right? You need to understand the new you and how to make that work most effectively out there. And often it's hard for us to see that, right?
Yeah.
Sometimes you need to take a step back and you need to get help, whether that is with a coach, or whether that's taking a course, or whether that's, reading a book, or however that is for you. But there is, skills you can develop. Like, I work with my clients, well, there's making sure they have the confidence, they know how to flirt, because believe it or not, a lot of people have no clue how to flirt.
Right.
And how to communicate properly. Like, that's really what questions to ask when you're on these dates, because I get that question all the time. What do I ask? And you don't want to ask the typical questions like you would at a cocktail party. What do you do for a living? Great day out there. It's, you want to be
Right.
and you want to ask questions that that you're going to find out key information from, right? On whether this person
Yeah.
does start to meet your requirements. Give them a chance, but you want to start to make sure you ask open-ended questions that reveal some information that is also not too direct. Like, do you want to get married? When do you want to get married? Not like that, but open-ended, that starts to reveal something about the person, and then patterns that start to come out in the person. So this is where skills are really important.
Yep.
And the next one is really what you said. I mean, be a magnet yourself, right? Like, and by being yourself, and don't try to be someone else, because we often do try to appeal to everybody. So we shift our personality based on, what we're seeing in that person. So
Yeah.
that person, they're attractive. So then they start saying they want this and they want that. And we're like, oh yeah, I like that. And I like this, but it's not really true to you. So really be who you are, because by being who you are, you've already determined what you want in that partner. And so by being who you are, you're going to attract that right partner for you.
Right.
But by going on a different signal, you're not going to attract that person. So just be true to yourself, because there is somebody out there who's going to love you just for who you are. There really is. People don't always believe that, but there really will be. And we already talked about, I don't think we need to go into the not settling thing, but don't settle. So
Yep.
figure out, what you need, and
Yeah.
read that, like I said, and stick to it. Understand that you need to go beyond just chemistry, because chemistry is extremely powerful. When hormones get involved, your brain goes out of the equation. So
Right.
make sure that by doing all of these steps, it's in the back of your mind. It's right there. So when chemistry is involved, then that's still front and center, that you can make, good decisions. But when you
Right.
don't have that information, that's when you get just sucked in and you're not making good decisions.
Right. And you're taking that time. So kind of the way that I think of it is that beginning honeymoon period, you're taking that time to just really assess the values and make sure there are not any non-negotiables that are coming up. But then after that honeymoon period, and I had a clinical psychologist suggest this, that after that honeymoon period, that 12 to 18 months, right, when you still have that, physiological change happening every time you see or think about that person, when that kind of starts to subside, then date for another year after
Yeah.
that, because then you get into what you talked about with the the bank code and knowing the
Yeah.
N and the K and all of that, and yourself and them, and how to communicate. And then if you can do that, and then that starts to build that foundation of, yeah, can this then be somebody then I can spend a greater period of time with.
Exactly. I mean, every relationship goes through stages, and I certainly don't believe it has to go down. I don't believe that, but it does go through stages where it is the honeymoon phase. And then little things after a while then start to pop up, little red flags, right?
Right.
And your voice starts to tell you, I don't love that, but okay, right? And nothing's ever going to be perfect, so that may be okay. But then as time goes on, there's a little more, and then that's
Right.
when you need to start doing the evaluation. It's like, is this what I need? So, and that's just a natural progression in a relationship as it goes through. There are various stages. There's a great book on that, The Stages of Love. Can't remember who the author is, but it's a really great book that explains it all.
Yep.
But yeah, I certainly don't believe, a lot of people think the relationship has to go down, and I don't believe that at all. But you have to respect the various stages that you're in. But yes,
Yep.
after you get past that honeymoon, certainly enjoy that honeymoon phase, but keep, everybody says just go with your heart, but I don't fully agree with that.
Yeah.
I think you have to have your head in the game to some extent as well, right?
Well, totally. So, I've got a funny story about that with my oldest daughter, and she had come back from a dance, just dance with the boys she likes. She's just all Twitter pated, talking about it, etc. But being dad, being the guy, I had to say, so tell me how you feel, and just I got her in state, and then I said, so do you think this would be a good time to make a really, really important decision about anything right now in your life? And she said, well, what do you mean? And like if I'm to ask you, like, make a decision, do you think you'd be in the state of mind that you would be thinking rationally about it? She said, no, probably not. I said, okay.
Oh, that's
just to understand that when it's
yes.
just a human thing, it has nothing to do. It's nothing not that you did anything wrong. It is a good feeling. Like, you want to have this feeling as much as possible. Just remember in the back of your mind always, it's the worst time for you to ever make a decision, an important decision about anything. So,
exactly.
because you're physiologically changed. Your body has literally done something to change. And that's a good thing for, nature and biology.
Yes, exactly.
But it's not necessarily a good thing for your life. So just remember that. So hopefully I didn't ruin that for her for the rest of her life.
I think creating awareness is key. There's so many things I wish I had known when I was younger.
Right,
and I'm a firm believer that I wish the education system would change to provide more skills to people at a young age, right? Just teach people about relationships, because none of us knew what to do in a relationship and what to look for. And we just went on attraction.
Right.
So we just thought, oh, that attraction's there. This person is for me.
Right.
And people may not be doing that to such an extent because they're really getting picky now, maybe to the opposite extreme. But I wish that I had understood some of that stuff earlier on.
Yeah, that's parenting, right?
It is, absolutely. It is. And we were never certainly told how to parent, right?
No, there's no guidebook.
No, there isn't. So the last two really is, we already really touched upon this, is taking the risks. I said that, and going, outside of your comfort zone. So, I already said, just think about what that partner would be doing. Do stuff that you want to do, that you've always wanted to do. That's another opportunity to meet someone offline, because as we've said, online can be a scary place. It's not, I'm not saying it's all great. I understand it's a tough place. So try also to meet people organically, and you can do that by getting involved in stuff that interests you and thinking about what might interest that person. So yes, go take risks and get outside your comfort zone. And rejection, we already touched upon too. That's the last step, is learning how to deal with rejection, so you don't feel completely defeated and want to give up, or convince yourself that you don't actually need somebody, which is fine. If you decide that, that's fine. But there are a lot of people who decide that because it's just a protective mechanism overall, because they're afraid of getting hurt, right?
Right.
So they just decide that they don't want anybody for the rest of their lives. So just learn how to take rejection, not take it personally. So that's
Right.
the last step on becoming unhackable.
Wow, that is awesome, awesome information. A ton of information. We could probably like do a whole show on each one. Was there like 7 or 8 steps? I think that you're sharing, like a whole show. And maybe we'll do this. Maybe we'll do a series in the future, an unhackable series, and take one of these and like deep dive into it and help people to get it, because it was phenomenal information. I really
Thank you.
appreciate it,
Yeah.
Alison Verge. So, Alison, it's Path to Love. How can people get a hold of you? Take a look at the bank test, and if you've got any events or anything else coming up, share those with us.
Yes, so I think you're putting the link in there. By all means, take that free assessment. And for your listeners, if they'd then like to book a free complimentary session with me just to discuss their code and what that means for their overall dating life, I'd be happy to do that. I also have some groups that run. I do have a divorce and separation group, like support group, that I run on Meet, that you can look out. If you can't find it, just maybe reach out to me and I will send you the details. I also have a group called Fit Professional Singles, so I run events in that group as well. And yeah, so that's really the key ways to get a hold of me.
Awesome. Well, I really appreciate it. And everybody, as usual, if you found some benefit in this, please leave a comment, like us, go to whatever podcast platform you're listening to and leave a review as well. That helps us immensely. And then also share it with other people on your social media. Share Alison's website, my website. The more people that we get this out to, the more people that we can help and create a more happy, harmonious dating world and life in general, right?
Exactly.
Alison, thanks so much for being here. I appreciate it.
Thank you so much. It was such a pleasure. All the
Take care.
best. Thanks.